Good afternoon, everyone. All right, it looks like audio is actually coming through without any strange feedback today, so we're already off to a good start in that regard. All right, folks, let's give it a couple of minutes, let people find their way in, and we'll see where we go. Let me just sort out my Cintiq here. It's gotten jammed. There we go. All right, folks. All righty. Mic is good. Thanks, Patricia. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you very much for popping in. It's good to see you. Well, you know, read. All right. Okay. We're doing. Let me just do a quick refresh on the stream. It seems to have frozen. No music though. No music yet. I haven't found any I like, Patricia. I haven't found any background music from the various sources that we've been looking at that I kind of like. So, nothing yet. How are we doing? All right. I will find some eventually. I say that every week, folks. But again, it's because I tend not to listen to it anyway when I'm working. Because I don't have any in-ear monitors or anything like that, I prefer to just kind of work without music. All right. Okay, folks. Well, welcome back to another Firestorm Studios live stream. My name is Pat, and today we are continuing with our A to Z of sculpting creatures inside of Zbrush. And this week we are continuing with our Mothman, which we are using we're very kindly being given the permission to use artwork from Sam Sheeran, the artist of this piece of concept. Please make sure you check out his website, mrsamsheeran.com, and you'll be able to find links to his store as well as his various socials there as well. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm just catching up the chat. Let me know which kind of music you like. That would be great. Thanks, Patricia. I mean, generally, anything that's kind of like lo-fi stuff, just something that's quite relaxed and background music based for lo-fi is generally who I would listen to on my own personal stream, just because it's not intrusive, really. And then that way I can sometimes listen to it as well. And classical music as well. Classical music's a good one. So, all right, folks. So you all know the drill, hopefully, by this point. If you don't, let me introduce you to our A to Z of ZBrush creature series. The idea here is that we work our way through the alphabet. We pick a creature beginning with the letter that we're on that week. And the rule is that we have to approach each concept completely cold. So we come onto the live stream and we create it from scratch. And these generally take anywhere between from 1 to 4 sessions. Normally it's 1 to 2, but for the larger projects, it's round about maybe 3 or 4. All right. And by kind of approaching it this way, it allows anyone who's watching or anyone who's new to ZBrush or just new to kind of art in general, you get to see all the mistakes that we make. You get to see that creative process as we figure out how to interpret our concept into a 3D object. Okay, and if you need to, or if you want to ask any questions, please do feel free to do so in the chat. And if you're new here, please feel free to introduce yourself as well. And you can keep up to date with everything Firestorm by following the links in the banner below below the stream. Okay, and you'll find all of our socials as well as links to our Discord community, which I would highly recommend you join if you're looking for a really positive and fun art community, as well as to get more information on the mentorships and other services that Firestorm Studios offers. All right. Okay, folks, with that out of the way, we're now going to get stuck into where we were last week. And we very quickly threw a kind of furry hump, if you will, over the character just to see what it would look like. But we're not going to be doing that. We're going to keep this highly, like, fully sculpted. We're not going to be using any fiber mesh or anything like that. So I'm just going to delete that. And I think as well, I'm not sure if I want to keep the geometry that I used to generate that in there. Let's have a look. I think eventually we will merge that in, because that's actually quite useful for just creating that overall silhouette of the character. So I'm going to hide the wing sections for the time being. And today's focus, I thought, would just be on sculpting the character, taking our time, spending a little bit more time with this one, because eventually we are going to 3D print this. And if you're curious about what that's going to look like, I can show you the block out that we did. So let's open up our WIP folder. We're going to turn on the lamppost and then turn on the sculpted version of the character. We'll just hide that one there. So this is the pose that we're going for. Now, the 3D print is unlikely to be this large, because that's just not practical. It would make sense to make the lamppost maybe more realistic in regards to the height it is in the real world. Maybe bring that down to about maybe here. So something like that. That would be quite cool. And here's the thing as well, folks. We did all of that last week. And when you come back to an image, this is why it's really important to take time away from anything you're working on. Even if it's only for an hour or two, come back to it with a fresh pair of eyes and you'll see things immediately. So as soon as I turned on the lamppost there, I was like, yeah, realistically, it looks okay. But from an image perspective, it's not really working that well. That's why in the original image by Sam, you can see he's cut off the lamppost, because having the full lamppost in there is going to create a lot of empty space that's not really adding anything to the image. So in this case, for the lamppost, I can take a look at this and say, right, well, that needs to be considerably shorter. So what I'll do is, you know what, let's just mask that, invert it, and let's move that up to about there. If that's going to be where the floor is, that works quite well for me. And then we can go back to can invert the lamppost and just delete this part here. So there we go. No fuss, no muss, done. So that is roughly what our 3D print will end up looking like. How we're going to approach that, how we're going to engineer that, I don't know yet. But I will try to create it so that it will be printable on both filament and resin printers. Just for myself, really. Because it would be really cool if we could, print one off and, maybe send it to Sam. That would be cool. Anyway, with that in mind, let's jump back to the actual sculpting of our creature. Now, I've got a whole bunch of reference for various moth heads. That's another thing that I've been doing, is looking for reference. Hey Stan, thank you very much. I appreciate the very energetic introduction. Thank you. Everyone say hi to Stan. Okay, now apologies for the very blue matte cap, but I felt that this would be the easiest way for everyone to see what it was we were doing. But as always, folks, if anything isn't clear on the screen and you're not able to follow what it is I'm doing, reach out in the comments, let us know, and we'll try to adapt. Because the whole point of these, or one of the major points of these live streams, is to learn. That's the great thing about them. You get to learn. in one of the best ways. You get to, like I said earlier, you get to see all the mistakes. You get to see things that work, things that don't work. Okay. So, like I said, I do have a bunch of reference here for various moth heads, and I'm just going to try and create something that looks kind of creepy-ish. The problem with moths is that by default, their heads are kind of cute. They're not terrifying looking creatures. So it makes me kind of think, right, I need to do something a bit different. So I'm going to use the masking tool here and just looking at the shape here. So I've kind of very roughly just carved in where that proboscis kind of for the moth is. It kind of sweeps down and around like so, okay? And depending on the type of moth, it's very different. But that's the general kind of rule with it. But for this, I thought it might be quite cool if we can try and maybe turn this shape here into some kind of jaw, which I thought would be quite cool. Everything is scary if you can't see it well, right? Exactly. It's that illusion. It's the fact is that our brains are always going to make it scarier than it actually could be. It's why films like the original Alien worked, and it's why shows like Alien Earth didn't work. Now, don't get me wrong, the show Alien Earth, I really enjoyed it, but the whole space horror fact just fell on its face. They just showed too much of the alien. And even though everybody knows roughly what the alien from that series looks like, it still helps with the, you still want to kind of jig that kind of at that imagination into gear a little bit. So, don't know, folks. I'm actually just going to start having a little bit of a play here and see what kind of works for me. What works and what doesn't work. He's actually starting to look a bit like Cad Bane from Star Wars. That was a complete mistake. It's the blue. It's the blue and red eyes. That's what's doing it. You know what might be quite cool, actually? I'm going to step back here a little bit. And I did this on the Chupacabra as well, but I've always liked the idea. So I'm going to extract these elements here. Just put the smooth up to 100, thickness down to 0, do an extract, and accept. And with these two shapes, I'm going to go into return on double. And all I've done here is the area that I masked, I've extracted it, and it's turned it into a new piece of geometry. What that's going to allow me to do is go into the geometry rollout here. And actually, you know what? I'm in the wrong. Oh no, I am in the right bit. And I want dynamic subdiv. Turn on dynamic. I'm going to reduce the smooth back down to 0. What this is going to allow me to do is add in some thickness and adjust the offset so that we can have that push out like so. Then I can hit apply. And the only reason I did that is so that I can actually start to sculpt this with a little bit of thickness added. Just going to make it easier to sculpt on. So we're going to smooth all this back, start reshaping it. Because I think I would like to do a kind of disjointed jaw thing, which would be quite cool. I'm going to invert this mask here that we've already masked out and just sculpt this start pushing this in, create a bit of a mouth cavity. And this may change as well, folks. I am just playing around at this point. Let's just see what we can come up with. And, you know, ideas, please fire some ideas in the chat if you know, there's something you think, no, that's terrible, Pat. Why are you doing that? What about this? This is scary. Because again, I mean, I'm doing it very quickly so that I can see if I like the look. And right now, I'm not liking it. I'm not liking it at all. No, I don't like it. I'm going to get rid of it. We'll come back to it. Or although, wait a minute, just had another thought. You know what? Let's do this as a layer, just so I can try out different ideas. Then if I don't like it, I can just turn it straight off. I'm going to first of all shape out front of the mouth like that, and I'm thinking something quite angular would be quite cool. And trying to kind of maybe create that split jaw thing again, but not as completely separated as it was. Okay. Vega, hey Vegalicious, how you doing? Thank you for coming along. Nice to have you here. Yeah, quite like the look at that. That's not offending me. That's not offending me. That's yeah, we can continue to work with that, I think. I actually have a history of doing creatures with large, jovial looking eyes. Which kind of sometimes has this mewing Mothman. You know what? Damn, what a Giga Chad chin, right? That is a Giga Chad chin, if ever I saw one. We take the Acu curve here, you might be able to roughly see what I'm thinking. I like the idea of this quite narrow mouth, almost vampire. Again, I'm pulling in reference from kind of spiders. I'm pulling in reference from bats, all sorts of things like that. Okay, start. Hide the arms here. I'm going to pull this back and maybe fix the overall line. There we go. Try and round out the head a bit more, because that's what we can see roughly in the concept. It is quite a round outline. Sorry, folks, we're not, might be a bit of a quieter stream today. Just as I kind of lock in and focus on trying to sculpt this out. As always, though, ask questions if you want to see anything, or you want me to cover anything in particular, do let me know and we can do that. Just need to start thinking about maybe dynameshing this again, or maybe just doing adding a subdivision. But I will try and sculpt as much as we can. That's the plan here. Sculpt as much as we can with the geometry that we have available to us. That is the plan. And again, we're going for I'm going for a full mix of things. I've got reference from all sorts of things. A lot of insects, which is where I'm pulling a lot of these kind of extreme shapes from. Maybe another crazy idea. Why are we spending so much time on the Mothman face? Well, I know what you mean. The reason is that it is going to be a 3D print. So to just have a completely featureless face might not look great, but it is something that we can try. I'm not opposed to adjusting and changing as needed. This was really just to try and kind of invent something in here. And again, we're not going to be spending a huge amount of time on the underlying torso because we are going to be covering a lot of it in fur. This is really just to give me a baseline. But yeah, I don't want to spend much more time on it than I have. And I can always do that off stream anyway if there's any small changes that we want to make. And also something we don't really do, or I know that it's not something I focus on a lot with my streams because we get through them fairly quickly, is spending a little bit longer just sculpting the character. It's something that I wanted to change up a little bit. I'm going to pull this out here. There we go. I'm just going to expand this because eventually these arms are going to be connected into the wing membrane. So that's something I do want to be quite sympathetic towards. Take out the trim dynamic. We also might not be streaming for the full 2 hours today, folks. I hope that's okay. Might cut it just a little bit shorter today. 3D print would be tougher to get looking good. Yeah, it's one of those things. You can print fur with resin, depending on obviously resin and kind of filament printers, but you do have to take a lot into consideration to make sure you get it looking good and that it doesn't just fall apart. Because if you do resin printing, resin is very brittle, or can be when it's printed. It looks great, really high resolution, but can be very brittle. Whereas filaments tend to be, or can be, a little bit stronger. Obviously, you're kind of losing a lot of the you're losing a lot of the detail with resin. Not as much as you used to, but you definitely are in some regards, in many ways. So, and I speak as someone who's done a lot of filament and a lot of resin printing. So let's just switch over to this and hey, not at all, Manic. Don't be daft. You join when you can join. It's lovely to have you here. Okay. Now let's take this extra lump that we've got, and this is what's going to indicate, and I'm using this to indicate where I want the fur to go. What did I miss? You've not missed much, Manic. We're just sculpting and refining some of the forms of our character body. I think what I need to do, get that more moth-like appearance, I need to bring the head in as well. I need to bring the head closer into the body and maybe make it a bit smaller. So to do that, we are going to make sure everything is turned on first, apart from our whip, because we're not going to change much there. And we're going to save our file. And then we're going to go into the T-pose mesh mode. Once we're in there, I'm going to hit Shift F to turn on the polygroups. And if I don't have the polygroups I want, I can use the auto groups button just to change that up a little bit. And then I'm just going to select the areas that I want to work on, which is going to be the head and the eyes. And I'm going to use the masking tool, in this case the mask lasso, and I'm just going to mask out the head. Make sure that I don't have anything else selected. Bring everything back and invert it. And then we can center. Okay, for some reason it's being... I think I've obviously caught something else in the mask here. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to do the mask again. Sometimes that'll happen. There we go. Now, when I turn off symmetry, there we go. That's what I wanted. So what happened there, folks, is when I tried to use the center to masked point here, the actual pivot was over here. That meant there was something else that I'd accidentally unmasked. So what ZBrush was doing is it was putting the mask point in the middle. So it's not an issue with ZBrush, that was a user error. So that's something that's really important to be aware of when you're working through ZBrush, particularly if you're new to it. Is that if something isn't working exactly as you expect it to, make sure that it isn't potentially user error and just redo the steps, okay? Because I do it all the time. I break things all the time in ZBrush. In fact, if I don't break something in ZBrush, then I don't consider it you know, a productive day if I haven't broken something in ZBrush. Okay, let me just bring up the texturing final pass for graduation. Oh, cool, Stan. Stan, you'll need to send me some of the stuff that you've been working on because the stuff you've sent me before looks really cool. So it'd be cool to see more. So that's looking much better. Oh, I like that. That looks better. I don't like the way the head's bulging forward, so we're going to smooth that out a little bit as well. But first, I'm going to go hit the T-pose to sub-T now that I've made this change. And then we can hide this part here. And you can see how much that's affected the rest of the model. But that's okay. We just come back and we fix it. You will have to do lots of resculpting when you're creating characters, particularly if you're concepting. Do not get comfortable with a character or a design. Don't, you know, try not to kind of be scared of like changing it, okay? You'd be surprised at how many times you can make something better. So I'm going to take the side here. I quite like the way the nose is, so we're going to just do the forehead. I'm going to pull all that back. And hopefully, if Mr. Sam Sheeran sees this, he's not horrified by what he sees. He's like, what are you doing to my concept? So now I just have to fix the head section here at the back. So we're going to do that by trying to balance out the top of the head and then do the same with the back and just smooth that. Try and find a halfway house. Readjust the fur here. Again, this is just going to be our fur block out. Thanks, Manic. Appreciate that. Thank you. That's good. Because again, I mean, here's the thing, folks. I mean, I'm not precious about this kind of stuff. If someone goes, Pat, that's terrible, it's like, cool, it's terrible. It's not working. Because the thing is, some things just don't work. We might not like it, but sometimes things just don't work. And we have to look at them in a different way. Oh no, Stan. I hope you haven't lost too much work. I hope not. Nothing worse than a crash. Okay, it kind of looks now at the moment that he has a sweater tied around his neck. So we're gonna have to fix that because that just looks hilarious. He's like, you know, he's like a college senior. The colors aren't helping either, so you know. So what I'm going to do here, folks, is to try and get away from, or try and kind of get a better idea of how this is going to work, I'm going to do a temporary version of the cloth. And to do that, I'm going to grab the snake hook brush. Now, if you've never seen the snake hook brush before, it's quite an aggressive brush and it allows you to create long tendrils from your mesh. So for example, if I take this section here and start pulling, it's going to keep stretching it until the geometry starts to collapse on itself. So if you turn on Sculptris Pro and then do the same, because Sculptris Pro can react better, it's going to give us some cool effects like this. We can use that to our advantage if we go into the alpha and then change that to something like, say, let's say alpha, what's that, alpha 7. I can make quite a big brush and then just pull up very gently. And what that's going to allow me to do, and because of Sculptris Pro, I can actually start pulling out the fur directly. And it gives a very randomized effect. Like so. And then you can build that up in layers. This is the thing, folks. There's so much in ZBrush that you can do with just the default brushes and the default alphas, just by thinking about using brushes in a slightly different way. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's going to work for what we need. You'll also notice that I'm not using symmetry here. I want this to be, I think we're going to have to change the colors because he's just looking too jovial. So we will use better brushes for this. But this gives you another way to approach doing chaotic fur type shapes or spiky shapes. And when you look at the fur of some of these these moths, it does have that really short kind of sticky out effect to it. And that's kind of what I wanted to go for with this. And you can kind of see that as well a little bit in the image. And if we really need to, we can go in individually with no alpha, slightly lower intensity. Let's drop that. And we can use it to create some flyaways. Okay. And I think as well that I want to, with this, now we're going to go into symmetry mode. Mossman. Yes. It's a good point. It does kind of look a bit like moss. Bring that round a bit. There we go. I'm going to reshape the hips here. This is just not looking that nice, but there's not a lot we're kind of we've lost a bit of form in here too. So let's address that. Let me just get my reference up here. Yeah, that'll do. Again, we're running out of geometry here. So we've got to be quite careful with that. only so much we'll be able to do till we and before we have to start upgrading and increasing the topology count. So yeah. Anyway, folks, so while I'm sculpting away, please let me know how your weekend was. Let me know what you've got up to. Let me know what your week ahead looks like. That's what we want to know. We want to know how everyone's doing. If you don't want to, that's okay as well. You can just sit back and chill as I sculpt this Mothman or the Mossman. You know, it's too hot. It is too hot today. You are correct there. I have said several times that my optimal operating temperature is around about 12 degrees, and it is just not that today. And that's even up here in the north. It's, oh, mesh has layers. Okay, well, I like the layers that I've done on this, so I'm going to bake that down. Bake all, there we go. And then I'm going to cut the feet like so. The other thing as well is I think something I've not really done here, which I should have, is the whole body seems to be a bit is furry in the reference. So I think we might need to expand this down a bit. We'll both time to break out the aircon. Really smart with the alpha. Same. Firestorm. Time to break out the aircon. You both. Never. Never. I find Scottish winters too warm sometimes. I mean, it's the weirdest thing because in Scotland it stays horrible and cold even at this time of year, and then all of a sudden you'll just get a week of intense heat, and then you'll never see it again. I'm going to take my move brush here, and I think I'm just going to mask this out because again we're still kind of concepting a little bit here. Let's bring that down, maybe scale it in. There we go. Okay. Change up the color here. And I'm now going to start thinking about the wing membrane. Hello, Pat. Nice jacket. Thank you, Kellyanne. I appreciate that. If I'm being totally honest, it was just so that I had somewhere to put my microphone. But I appreciate it. Oh, what did I do? I went too far back. There we go. All right. So in order to start making this look a little bit more, he's in the Leon stage with that jacket. Are you standing right now? I am, Stan. Yeah, I'm standing at the moment. I've started to do that now, folks. I'm generally, if I'm doing my live stream or something like that, I will try to stand for most of it. And sometimes, essentially, at some point, it gets to an issue where you lose focus because you do feel that you're aware you're standing because then you've been standing too long, and that's generally when I will sit down. Generally, for these, if I sculpt or stand for about an hour, I'm okay with it, and then I can move on and sit back down again. All right. So, but the thing is, one of the things about standing, particularly because I use a drawing kind of screen, like a screen tablet, it makes me feel like I'm at a drafting table, which I much prefer, rather than, you know, shrimping over like a Cintiq or a drawing tablet that's on the desk. So, and there is some people can sit back and sculpt and things. I'm not like that. I need to be a bit kind of closer in, and I feel as though that when I'm standing, I don't arch my back as much when I'm doing it. So, you know, and all joking aside, I am older, so I need to make sure that I'm not doing anything that's going to damage my back. So, and I mean, and I'm not even joking with that. I'm being completely serious with that, folks. You've no idea how much what we do on a day-to-day can damage you when you're sitting down all the time. So stand up as much as you can. But now that I've saved that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tail and I'm going to merge that down. Stand up, everyone. And I think we're now going to take a look at doing the wing membrane. So now, I'll not lie, it would be easier for me to do the wing membrane if the wing was flat out. However, because I know that we're going to be doing this we're going to be doing a 3D print, and we want this to be in pose, I'm going to take the more difficult route and basically make the wing membrane in place. So we're kind of going for like a semi-A pose, but kind of not. So let's first of all, let's do a little bit of work on these. Now these are Dynameshed, so I think what I will do, that's Dynamesh too, I keep forgetting that. Let's break out the ZRemesher guide brush, and let's do a little bit of ZRemesher here. Because whenever you're working with longer thin surfaces, it can get a little bit messy, and things have a tendency to collapse in on themselves. So what we'll do is, I'm just try to think of the cleanest way to do this. So let's delete one side. T-pose time. Not yet, not quite yet. So let's just drag this out, and we're just going to drag the ZRemesher guide brush out a few times, and then just tap the shift key, and as I do that, it's going to create an edge loop all the way around, like so. I'm just reminding ZBrush that this is how I want my edge looping to go, and when you hit the ZRemesher button, if you've given it enough points, it should create a pretty consistent edge loop all the way down. But I'm just going to try and make sure I get the same amount here. How many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so let's put another one in there, another one in there, and another one in there. There we go. All right, now that that's done, let's go into geometry, down to ZRemesher. And I apologize, folks, if you can hear cars behind me. I have had to open my office window because it is so warm. And we'll just hit ZRemesher, and we'll see what that gives us. That isn't bad, but it's still too much. So let's turn off adaptive, press the half button, and hit ZRemesh again. And I'm going to do that a couple more times until, there we go. That's better. That's workable. And now we do a little bit of cleanup on the overall forms. So we're going to start with the thumb, and says the person with the jacket. It's technically a shirt. It looks like a jacket, but it is actually a shirt. Just justifying it to myself in the completely worst way. But I'm willing to put up with the extra heat so that I have somewhere to put my microphone. So let's just pull this together a bit. Ah, you're too kind, Stan. You're far too kind. So what I'm going to do here is, again, we don't have the greatest topology because it is ZRemesher, but I'm going to do my best to try and indicate where the claw is going to come out here. And I think, based on what I have, we can readjust the topology here. If Zbrush will play ball with me. No, we can't, because no. Okay. I'm just going to do the overall shape, and then I will sculpt everything, and then we'll do a manual retopology, because I'm not putting up with that kind of level of bad topology. And don't get me wrong, the ZRemesher is fantastic, but every time I use it, it's proven to me time and time again why it shouldn't be used as the way to go. Even to start a mesh for retopology, I don't think it's wise. I think you can get much better results quicker doing it manually. And yes, at the beginning it's a bit slower, but by the time you get to the end of the model, it's, you know, you're not having to do any editing. It's all done. And when you're retopologizing, you should also be UV mapping as you go. So if you retopologize a creature's arm, UV map it as soon as you've retopologized it. It's faster to just retopo. Correct, 100%. 100%. It might be hot, but the judge. I can only but laugh. But and I don't mean that, you know, it's not that it's not appreciated. You know. Okay. Now, looking at the arm, the actual rest of the fingers are very, very thin. That's something that I'm not too worried about when it comes to the 3D print, because they're all going to be built into the wing anyway. So I'm quite happy to just take each of them and smooth them down. Now, something I'm going to do here, I'm going to go into preferences, and I'm going to go into tablet and turn off use tablet. The reason I'm doing this is that now pressure sensitivity will not be an issue. Okay, so if I turn that off, now ZBrush will not, it will not kind of give me a variable stroke as I go all the way down. So that way I can choose the intensity of the smooth, so that when I do this, I get the exact same consistency all the way down each of the spines. And that gives you a nice, smooth, consistent shape. Because you might find is that sometimes when you're using ZBrush and you're smoothing something, it can occasionally make it a little bit too thin in one area. The best way around that, turn off your tablet pressure and then just make sure you turn it back on. I actually normally have it on my custom shelf, but I don't have it on this one for some reason. But anyway, so there we go. That gives us a better looking set of wing membranes, so, or wing fingers if you will. However, I have noticed that it's a bit thinner on this one, so we're going to go back in, turn that off, and this time I'm going to lower the intensity and just do it a little bit more on these two. There we go. That looks about right. What's this? Let me that you're chatting about Pat. I can understand the noise of having the mic on this t-shirt. Might I suggest a hat instead of and clipping the mic on it? Right, so it's too warm, so I'm wearing a shirt. but you want me to wear a hat. That's what I'm taking from it, Manic. You want me to wear a hat in this really sweltering heat. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I know where you're coming from. You know, I could kind of just clip the mic to the hat and it might pick up my voice. So, you know, I should put the mic on in his majestic beard. No. I mean, here's the thing. I actually, I had to trim my beard back because I had to get my passport renewed. So I needed a little bit of a more, you know, a bit of a more put together kind of look. Had to be a bit tidier. So, you know, God, passports are so expensive now. I hate to be that guy, but they really are. They really, really are expensive now. Let's put that down to 1 and just inflate that ever so slightly. There we go. Okay, now that I've got the rough block out of I've kind of cleaned up these wing membrane, or sorry, the wing fingers a little bit. We're now going to start looking at how to approach the actual wing itself. Now, there's a whole host of different ways you can do this. I haven't decided how I want to do this yet. I haven't decided how I want to do this. But let me see. I am tempted to do curve. Where is it? Curve quad fill, curve tri-fill. Let's try this. Bear with me here, folks, while we try and figure this out. Yeah, I think that might work. Okay, so what we're going to do, and again, this isn't the only way to do it. In fact, I think Pablander's got a really great YouTube video on various different ways that you can do wing membranes, but I'm going to show you my way, or one way. So what you can do is if you go into the brush menu, there's a brush called Curve Quad Fill, and whatever object you have selected, it's going to allow us to draw out a shape, like so, and it's going to create a piece of geometry based on that shape, which essentially allows us to do something like this, where I can go like this, like that. Okay, now obviously it isn't going to be perfect because it's only doing it in that flat plane, but we can grab the curve and we can move it around if we need to. But generally what I do is I would say, okay, happy with that, right? Then I'm going to take the shape itself and do split unmasked points. And in our subtool palette, I'm going to grab that. We're going to clean up the bits we don't need. We'll turn off symmetry, delete 1/2. And then I'm going to delete the parts I don't want. They're a little bit messy, like that. Delete hidden. And then I'm going to do geometry, Z-remesher, Z-remesh. And then reduce that until I get a piece of geometry that's light enough to work with. Then I can move it into place. Turn on double. You go for Z-sphere. Yep, that's another way. Yes, in fact, we can look at that as well, I suppose. But the reason I like doing it this way is just, wait a minute, make sure I've got, yep, use tablet on, there we go. For me, it's just a little bit more direct. I like the more direct approach to this. I'm going to show you another way of doing this as well, folks, so don't worry. The problem is that this wing membrane approach, the way I'm showing you, is better suited if you're actually in a proper A pose where the wings are in a more riggable, rig-friendly position. But again, there's so many different ways to do stuff in ZBrush. So many different ways. Just going to use the inflate brush to kind of bring that back. And again, another good thing about these streams, folks, is that you get to see how long things actually take. Things are not always just nice and clean. You know, remember that when you're looking at tutorials or you're learning something and you watch a tutorial where everything just works. That's not necessarily how it kind of happens, I'm afraid. It doesn't really work like that. So what I'm going to do here, so I mean, again, we can do this in sections, and the reason I do it in sections is it's just easier to do it like that. And again, even though this doesn't seem like a clean way to do it, it's not a slow way to do it either. Because I can get exactly the look I want very, very quickly. And then if I turn on AccuCurve, I can pull things down like so, sharpen everything together. We can use ZModeler to clean up some of these areas here. So we'll just delete some of this. Don't want that. And I'm going to merge or stitch some of this together. So I'm just going to stitch that to there and that to there. And then do a little bit of a move. There we go. Smooth that out. There we go. Nice large brush. Move it back into position. So taking a look at the concept, yeah, we can probably do something like this. Grab our move topology brush and just drag these in. However, I would recommend not doing it the way I have done it, as in do not do it in a pose. It's very difficult to get this working in pose, as you can see, because it's going to be a little bit more untidy just by its nature. You can see that, you know, we've run into a small problem in the fact that we have to now add some thickness, make sure everything's working and connected as it should be. And I don't know why I've done that with the elbows, because that's not actually how they look. I don't know what I was thinking there. So let's knock that back a bit. There we go. So just keep moving that in and we're done. And again, I'm not too worried either about messier parts because again, it's going to be 3D printed. That's the plan. So a lot of this is going to get combined together. And we'll just re-topologize the wings in one go. So I'm being very careful to think about the overall shape, that the wing, the actual membrane and the finger of it, what shape they're going to make, okay? So I'm trying to think ahead a little bit, which is really important to do. And it's one of those things that is just one of those learned skills over time, okay? We're just going to lower that intensity down and just relax the membrane a bit. There we go. All right, folks. I'm going to do a quick save. Save next. And there's a chance here that what we may need to do is just move the arm a little bit. So I can mask this out. Take my transpose tool. And just very gently rotate that. So I'm just going to mask out a bit more of the arm and just shift that back. Which isn't actually working as I wanted, so I'm going to just switch to my move brush, I think. Just move that back. There we go. Again, we have to remember that we've got a bit of the membrane as well up at the top, which I've just missed. So I'm going to now mask that out like that. And I'm going to bring that up. Oh. Could have made my life quite a bit easier there. So one of the reasons I haven't done a lot of work on the arms in general is that we are going to have to resculpt them because they do seem to just be, they're heavily part of this whole creature. So you'll notice as well that the actual wing membrane kind of hooks over in the design. So I want to make sure that I kind of copy that as best I can. So, but tell you what, folks, I'm just going to take a quick break and change my desk, and then I'll be back in a second. Right, folks, and that's us back. So, right, so we're going to continue with the wings. Now, something that Manic mentioned in the chat is using Z-sphere topology to create a geometry for the wings. Is another way of doing it. So I just wanted to really quickly cover how you can do that. So obviously we're going to need a Z-sphere. So we're going to append a Z-sphere. And with that done, I'm then going to scroll down and I'm going to look for the, where is it? Ah, that's not what I wanted. Need to select it first, that would be helpful. So if I select the Z-sphere, scroll down, I'm going to find this option called topology. And if I open that rollout up and hit edit topology, you'll notice that the Z-sphere changes. And then I'm going to be able to actually draw out points like this along my mesh. If I can remember. I don't use this very often, but now that I've got that Z-sphere in place, I can, let me just hide the other membrane here. So it's a bit easier to see. Grab the Z-sphere. There we go. Just it's a bit cleaner. Now, I can start building up topology. There we go. Oops. Oh, what am I doing wrong? Bear with me, folks. I've forgotten how to do this. There we go. So here's another thing, folks. If you forget how to do something in ZBrush, hold the control key over some of the menus. And what ZBrush will do is it's going to pop up a little help window. And in some cases, it'll be quite detailed. Others, it won't be. Sometimes it'll just give you a generic message. But what's good about the edit topology is it's actually going to allow me to, I can figure out what it is I need to do for the controls. So it's like add a point. So I can click on a desired point, delete a point, alt click, new starting point, control point, you know, and there we go. Yeah. So basically it's telling me what it is I need to do. So that's fine. Okay. Add a point, click on desired point. Yep. Start new point. Great. Excellent. Okay. So we'll see if we can work this together. I'm just going to lower my draw size. Click. I don't know why it's not letting me do that. It's not letting me bridge that gap for some reason. Okay, so all I'm doing now is bridging the gap. I think that's right. And then control click, starting a new point like that. Okay, now if I start drawing in geometry like this, we should, I think, be able to get, why is that not creating the geometry? Interesting. Oh, I haven't completed it, that's why. Okay, that's why that's not working. So we'll try that again. Weird. Okay, folks, I have clearly forgotten how to use this tool, so we will look at that another time, because I'm not going to waste your time watching me figure out how to use something that I don't really use that often. So I'll delete that. But it is good to know that you can always use the control key to find out what certain things do. So for example, if I hold the control key over this alternate button, okay, and this is to do with color. And essentially what it's telling me is that it's going, the alternate button will polypaint with the selected secondary color when the Alt key is pressed. This will only be on by default for all brushes, So if you are a little bit lost when you're just getting used to ZBrush and you're new to it, press the Control key. Nothing wrong with forgetting. Hostess, yeah. Thank you very much for the follow. Very much appreciated. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with forgetting how to do something. You know, don't ever worry about that. Okay, I know it's quite easy to get a little bit, you know, concerned. You go, oh, I should remember everything. Don't put that kind of pressure on yourself to remember absolutely everything. That's what documentation is for. That's what documentation's for, folks. So I'm just going to continue cleaning up this little bit here. And based on the concept, how long have we got, folks? Okay, we're getting through things a little bit. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to create another section. That's hilarious. I'm going to create another section of the quad draw here for the quad fill. So we'll grab our curve quad fill brush. Now, you'll notice that when I create the shape, that there's a thickness here. Now, if I reduce the intensity and then click on the object, it's actually going to make that a little bit thinner. So as I reduce the intensity and click on the line, it's actually going to make that object a bit thinner and a bit easier to work with. Okay. Another thing you can do here, just while we're into it, is if you go under, and I've already got it set to this by default, if you go under, where is it again? Is it picker? Yeah, it's picker, under depth. Now, my brush, the way I've got my brushes set up, mine is defaults to continuous, or it should anyway, but I don't think it did in this case. But if I set this to continuous, what it's going to allow me to do is when I draw the line, like so, to create the shape, it can sometimes be a bit hard to get, it'll actually follow the line a little bit better, like so, okay? And then, like I said before, if we wanted to increase the thickness, we can. So I can just click on that, and that will create a little bit more thickness for me. Then if I just Alt-click, and then we can do the exact same thing we did before. We're going to grab this part of it, and then do a bit of cleanup. There is ways that you can do it really clean, but honestly, you're always going to end up doing extra work with the move brush anyway. So I prefer to just use that as a mesh generation tool, then go in, Z-remesh it, Z-modeler it, and customize it myself a little bit easier. So with that done, I'm going to split my unmasked points here, and then do the same as before. And take a look at how that's working. So based on the reference, this has actually got quite a thick, or quite a, well, I mean, it's been pushed together and it's curved round, so we have to bear that in mind. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful about how I scallop this one. We'll just bring that back again. See again, I mean, we haven't Z-remeshed this one yet. Let's do that. You know what? I'm just going to get rid of this. Delete. And then just pull that in to there. Pull that down to here. Oh, too much. Let's try. There we go. Drag that down. And we will add some thickness to these just before we combine them with the finger sections. But again, I have no interest in kind of doing that right now. I will do that later on. And it's so much easier to work with this when you don't have a thickness to the mesh. Far easier to work with, okay? But remember, when you're watching a tutorial on something, obviously, for obvious reasons, whoever has made the tutorial, they've done it in a certain way to kind of, you know, so they're not wasting your time with mistakes happening and things if you just want the knowledge of how a tool works. But I just want you all to remember that that's rarely the case when you work on something. Things are going to go wrong. Things will go wrong, and rarely will it work perfectly the first time. It does happen, but not, you know, not exactly in my experience. There's always something that goes wrong. So now that I've got that, I'm going to, you know what? I think what I might do here, yeah, I'm going to take my Z modeler and I'm going to stitch these points together. So I'm going to hover over, grab the stitch brush, click, and then, oh, did I delete that by accident? Yes, I did. So let's just set that to do nothing. And that's why I use the mouse with ZModeler, because the tablet just never works for me. Okay, now that that's in the right shape, we'll jump back into geometry and we'll do a Z-remesh again. Set the target polygons to 5 to begin with, so that's the default, and you will get a very dense mesh, but that's all right. Tap the half button, hit Z-remesher, and just get it somewhere within the realms of what you want. So that matches this, but we've lost quite a bit of our geometry there, so I'm going to leave it at this one. There we go. So let's take a look at how our character is looking now. Well, he now looks a little bit more interesting because he actually he's got wings. So let's get the last bit knocked out. Where am I? Brain activate. Let's do curve quad fill. And just as a reminder, folks, please be sure to check out the Discord for Firestorm. You will find a link to that in the banner at the bottom of this stream, as well as a link to all of our social pages as well. If you're interested in mentorship, then please consider reaching out. And that's one of the best things about the Discord, is it's going to introduce you to all of the amazing artists here at Firestorm Studios, many of which actually do stream. Okay, that do mentorships as well as stream. Okay, that's fine. I can work with that, and we'll just, yeah, I can work with that. So let's just immediately go in and split unmasked points. And that's something as well, folks. The more experienced you become, the more, this will sound strange, sometimes the messier your work becomes, because you know how much you can get away with, and you can go, right, I can fix that, or I know that I'm going to need to do extra work on it anyway, so I'm quite happy working with something that's a bit scrappier and then cleaning it up later. Okay. So for example, I'm going to mask out, going to create the scallop here, like that, and then just do delete hidden, and then I will do a Z-remesh, and that should hopefully clean it up for me. Did that work? There we go. Okay, it's not done a great job, but if that's the case, then what I'll do is I'll go into my knife curve and I'll make a cleaner cut like that. weird. It's decided to be... Okay, so that's not working. That's fine. We'll take the slice curve instead then. And what that's going to do is that'll actually create a polygroup for me, but it creates a nice clean line. Okay, so I can delete that. And now I've got something I can work with. So with that Z remeshed, in fact, you know what? Let's do a little bit more cleanup here as well. There we go. Perfect. So, well, it's not perfect, but it will be. And we'll just Z remesh this to a shape that we like, and then repeat what we did before. We'll just grab all the edges and pull it in. Turn on AccuCurve, and that's going to pull that down like so. And then just bring them together again. All right. Now, in the event that you think that's kind of, it's not got the shape I need, well, that's all right. We can do that in a couple of ways. You can either take the inflate brush, which is what I'm going to try here. I'm just going to bring some of that shape out a bit. Might have to use the Alt function so that it billows out. And just do that from the middle. Nice and fast. There we go. Again, we're working the model up, trying to get as much of it in place as possible, and then we will slowly refine it. We'll just slowly refine our model. I'm going to go in here with the move topology and just start cleaning that up. There we go. And I'm actually going to be a bit cheeky and just delete those. And see something that's going to make my life a bit easier just by removing it, I will. So here, for example, we can maybe get away with just removing some of these edges rather than fight with the model trying to get it to be cleaner. And I want to stress that this is only because we know where this model is going to go in the end. We know it's going to end up as something that we want to print. So we have a little bit more leeway with how we approach things. And a lot of this is going to change anyway because we're going to be sculpting it and posing it. I don't want to be very precious over it right now. Okay, that works really well. Let's now take, it's going to create ourselves a claw for the end of the thumb. So I'll take a standard sphere and just Z-remesh that. Not Z-remesh it, sorry, Dynamesh it. We'll Dynamesh that. Whoa, that's way too high. There we go. Let's just move this out. Taking a look at the shape, let's just mask off the top. And scale it down. Go into deformation, unmask everything, and let's just do a polish. There we go. we can do a little bit of a taper using one of the, there we go. That's fine. Come back in, and we can now use the curve, the bend curve now, add a bit of resolution. And you know what? We're going to keep that lower. There we go. There we go. And accept that. We'll take the knife curve brush, just chop that about there. We do have symmetry, so we'll do a quick Z-remesh. Not Z-remesh, sorry folks, I keep saying that, I mean Dynamesh. Brain's a little bit all over the place today. So, but we are getting somewhere. This is good. It's good to see we're making progress with our Mothman. Again, I'm going to probably keep some of the forms a bit thicker than I normally would. And this is because, again, I don't want to have to go through and add thickness or kind of plump up any of the forms. So, because I want it to print well. I mean, you'd be amazed what you can get away with now with 3D printing. I mean, I know I am. I mean, it's quite amazing to me how far the technology has come in not even 10 years. The quality is just quite ridiculous. And that's from very affordable printers. So if 3D printing is something that you've been interested in, I highly recommend you check it out. You won't be disappointed. I mean, if I'm being honest, I would stick with filament to begin with. Resin is great, but unless you are only wanting to print high quality miniatures or collectibles, then I would take a look at filament printing instead, or FDM printing. So much safer, so much cleaner, and I wouldn't say necessarily easier, definitely not easier. 3D print, each kind of 3D printing has its own difficulties, caveats, pros and cons, as they say, but I would definitely say that filament printing is an easier barrier for entry, because you don't have the same, you don't have to do any kind of post-processing on stuff, whereas with resin you have to. And do not fall for the if you are getting into resin printing, don't fall for the whole water soluble or water washable stuff. Wash things with alcohol, folks, if you're doing that. Trust me, because I fell for that and it was not good. Simple fact is, it's a UV resin. There's not it's toxic no matter which way you look at it. So anyway, sorry folks, I'm rambling about I'm just rambling about resin and printing now. So okay, let's do quick polish. There we go. And now we will do a Z-remesh. Now we'll do a Z-remesh. So Z-remesh. Oh, that was Projection Master. That's a totally different feature. However, if you're interested, Projection Master, if I go into document here, oh, where is it? You know what? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Basically what Projection Master allows you to do is to drop a model like this to the canvas, send it over to something like Photoshop, paint on it, and then you can send it back to Zbrush and it'll pick up all that detail or information that you painted on it in Photoshop and apply it your model inside of Zbrush. It's a very cool feature actually. Not really needed anymore though. Well, it is in some regards, but you know, just one of those tools that's not used as much. There we go. Let's just do half for this. Going to make it way easier for me to clean it up. And then let's get that scaled down. Now, I'm going to use the stager here. So if anyone is curious about it, and I will be doing a tutorial, direct tutorial for this for Firestorm very soon. But this is how it works. Underneath geometry, we have an option called stager. And in here, we have a home stage and a target stage. Basically, this just means start and end. So our model is at our start point. It's in the middle of our grid. So we just want to record that by hitting home stage. It's going to highlight it orange. That lets Zbrush know that we've recorded this as the starting point. The end point is going to be on the end of the wing here, or on the end of the finger. So all I need to do is position the claw, and I can scale and rotate it. It's going to record all of it. And just make sure it matches. There we go. Something like that. That's looking okay. Okay. I know in the concept it's rotated the other way, but we can fix that later. I just want to get it working because at the moment, this is the top of the thumb. And I would want to kind of rotate that a little bit, but we'll leave it as it is. So that's our end point. We have to tell Zbrush that we want it to save that state. So target stage. Now, if I switch the stage, it's going to switch between the start point and the end point. And what's great about this is it allows me to go back to the home point, make a change, like make it a little bit curvier at the top, maybe add a bit more of a point to the end. And just clean up the curve or the shape like so. Now, what ZBrush will do is it's only going to remember the transformational data. So you can do anything you want to the model itself, and ZBrush will just happily move it back and forth between these 2 points. Okay. Great. Now, to finish up, I'm going to take all the geometry I've got, like so, the wings, we've got the fingers, we've got the membranes, and we're just going to merge them all down. I'm not going to fuse anything. Oh, I didn't want to do merge visible, I want to merge down. Okay. And just keeping an eye on what I'm merging, that's fine. And I always tend to have polygroups on when I'm doing this, and then that way I can see the polygroup update as I merge the objects together. And let's just clean all that up, and I'll call it wing. And then we're going to go to Z plugin, Subtool Master. I'm going to click on mirror. That's going to open up this new option here. And I'm going to choose append as new subtool and then leave the mirror axis and hit OK. Now we have both sides of our creature. Now, generally, I will do a duplicate of this claw here. So I'm just going to do duplicate. And I'm going to call that mirror claw. And that is going to be one that doesn't have the stager information. I'm pretty sure. Hold on, let me just double check that before we move any further. Yeah. So that there is the original. Yep, that's fine. And then with the secondary one, I'm just going to do a mirror. This time I'm going to choose merge into one subtool and hit OK. And this is just going to help me visually be able to work out how everything is working together. And there we go. So it's not perfect, folks, but we're slowly getting there. We're slowly getting there. Let's just do another save. And then let's look at where we were at before we started. So I'm going to move this guy down to the bottom here. And I'm going to hit Shift S. That's going to save a snapshot. Now I can move the model around and I can load in version, I think it was version 12. There we go. And I'm just going to get rid of that. And I'm going to look at some of the differences here. See what I like, see what I don't like. Now, obviously, the one at the top looks a little bit more menacing. Why? Because he's already colored, right? We've already given him some color. So let's switch back and do that for our normal one, our new one. This one here. I'm just going to clear up that there. That actually looks cool already. So what we'll do here is, let's take the wings. Let's bring back this. The wings have got well, they've got like a blue outer because of the lighting, but kind of a browny bat wing, kind of black, leathery black bat wing kind of a look. So what we'll do is with this one here for the top part, it's currently got, it's just fully black, which is actually kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. I quite like that. But let's not lose all of the detail that we put in there. So let's, first of all, let's make it just really, really off black. So off black, just very, very dark gray, very, 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 very dark gray. There we go. And then I'm going to go into occlusion here, and I think, oh no, I can't. That's fine. Ignore me. I'm going to change the color of the background a little bit here, just make it a little bit lighter so people can see what we're doing. I'm going to use that color here. And I think for the body here, we'll do a bit of a brown. So a really dark brown. We'll just fill that object with that. We're going to do the same for the wings. But for the wings, I'm just going to add, I'm actually going to go for a bit of a purple. Okay. Although, what happens if we grab that color there, and I'm going to try that on the body, see how I like it. Yeah, that's quite cool, not going to lie. Do the same for the wings. No, the wings we will do that dark black that we had. Just make it a little bit lighter. Okay. So the bit I'm liking is, I like how much we've changed the neck. It's not sticking out as much. I don't like how little shape we're getting with the fur, so I'm kind of putting that back. I'm trying expanding that a bit, and the head's bothering me a little bit. I kind of like. I think we're missing the. I'm missing this kind of rounded shape. It's looking too reptilian at this point. So we're going to fix that before we finish up. And this is what I was meaning, folks. Don't be scared to go back on something. So we're going to get rid of those neck bits. And then, see, already I'm liking that better. And that's just a small change. You can see how much, okay, see the difference? Looking really reptilian because it's got a bit of a snake-like look to it. I don't want that. Now, we're pulling that in. We're now rounding it out. It's more akin to the concept we have here, and it's more akin to the description that we hear as well. So, and then let's take a little bit of a stab at the rest of the head a bit. Let's soften this out. There we go. Then we take it back to where it was, but we keep the chin. There we go. Instantly better. Now it feels like a Mothman. It's not exactly as it was before, but it's an evolution of the design that we were doing. And we still have the Giga Chad chin, which I think honestly we all like. Okay, right, folks. I'm going to save that there. And what I might do, if you guys will permit me, is I may clean up some of these elements now that we've done them, just so that when we come back next week, we can maybe look at posing and starting to go into Maya to start building out the lamppost, because I'd like to do the lamppost in Maya so that so you guys can get a different look at how to kind of work with something like this. And then that way we can model our final lamppost in Maya, bring it into ZBrush, add some details. So we've got things like UVs and all this kind of jazz, because it would be nice to be able to do a cool render of this and have the ability to 3D print it as well. Okay, so still just looking, I'm thinking that the head needs to go back even further into the fur, so we might do that. Anyway, folks, and also if any of you have seen the Tim Burton 1989 Batman, this is giving me a little bit of vibes of the kind of crime sketch that they do of the Batman and they show at some point. So anyway, folks, this is where we are going to finish up for today. I want to thank everybody who has come along and spent the afternoon with me while we sculpt through our Mothman, and we went through a whole variety of different approaches, and I think where we've ended up with at the moment, it's looking really solid. I feel that now we can just start refining this to make it look more like the concept. Finalize some of the legs. Obviously we need to add some fur, the same kind of fur effect we want to add to the legs, and then start building up the final details. And that's what I might do. Like I said, it'd be nice to get this to a point where we can start looking at adding those final details, those nice little extras on the model, which is something we haven't really looked at much during these streams. So I think that's what we'll do. And then we'll also look at modeling out the lamppost inside of Maya, and then we can start bringing them together and looking how we're going to potentially print it. But although I don't think we'll really do much in the way of print engineering, because that's a whole separate concept. I just want to get us to the point where we have a nice looking model hanging on the lamppost. All right, folks. Well, as always, I hope everyone has had a really good time this afternoon. I know I have. It's always great fun hanging out with everyone and chatting with you. Remember to check out the Firestorm Discord and check out the social links at the bottom of this stream. And until then, folks, I will see you all next week. And also, just as a reminder, we do have another set of streamers throughout this week. Heather is going to be streaming twice for Firestorm. You'll also be able to catch her over on the Maxon Zbrush one, and we have Carmen streaming tomorrow as well. All right, folks, enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.